Let's have a little conversation about COVID-19 and the jabs. So, I know there are a lot of people out there who are for it, and there are lots of people out there who are against it. The way I view it is it's about freedom of choice, and it's about finding out what the jab has. Is it beneficial? Is there any point in having it? Does it help anybody? Well, I think people rushed into it because they were pushed into it so quickly through fear and misinformation that nobody really gave it a chance to, find out about it before people just seemed to be rushing in. And I understand why. It was all for very, very good reasoning. Your logic was sound. In fact, your logic was better than the logic of those who've decided not to when you think of it compassionately. Because, we should be in a world where we can trust the people who are supposed to be helping us to get better or looking after our countries or all of these kinds of things. But unfortunately, we're not. We can't trust them. They constantly lie to us. We know they constantly lie to us. So if we know that they constantly lie to us and they definitely don't have our best interests at heart because they've shown it time and time again, then why would you trust them in such a circumstance? It doesn't make sense. But I know you did it because you thought that you were protecting other people. But they did all of the mask thing, and then it was shown that the masks aren't beneficial, and all the way through it, there's been loads of corruption, people handing, huge contracts to their friends or business partners or wives or husbands, it's like, there's just so much corruption. Why would you believe them? Especially when, if you think about this logically, so here's a problem that a lot of people don't really think about or broach, and that's the world overpopulation. And that's a thing, because what resources do we have on this planet? And I think we're up to about 7.8 billion people, and we can't get more resources because we're a planet floating in space, surrounded by noxious gases. Is it the Van Halen belt? I think they call it. Which is a huge belt that surrounds us that is just poisonous. I mean, slightly more poisonous than what we're doing to our planet right now, really. So we can't get more resources from places, and we're destroying what we do have, and when animals overbreed, we kill them, yeah? And how do you think we control the overpopulation of mankind? Because we don't have any natural predators as such. We have illnesses and things that, can kill us, that are all created by us, diet choices, lifestyle choices, and dangerous machinery and all that kind of stuff, We're turning this world into a living hell. This is what we're going to end up with. The skylines are full of big grey monolithic buildings, which just don't compare to nature. We've already our water source is already contaminated way beyond it ever should. The air that we breathe is so contaminated that, it's poisonous for us, poisoning our foods, makeup, lotions, clothes, all of these things carry toxins that we're very well aware of. It's just, where does it stop? What do we do? So obviously the people in control, they have an agenda because they need to keep the population down, don't they? In 10 years or in 30 years time, how many does 7.8 billion become? It's like the magic penny. It continues and it continues and it continues. Where does it stop? What do we do about it? We can't really have wars anymore, can we? Because we've got such nuclear capacity that if we were to have wars, the whole planet would be destroyed. So they have to think of other ways to keep the population numbers down, and it's a real problem. So we have to We have to be honest, and we have to take responsibility when things are going wrong in the world. It's very easy to look at other people and to go, oh, well, it's the heads of industry or it's animal agriculture. I mean, in some ways, we could say that this is right because industry is destroying the planet. So is animal agriculture. It's destroying our health, and pharmaceutical industry. Well, obviously, it's the biggest, most corrupt industry out there, and people are afraid to stand against these people, these giants of industry with all their money and power and influence who can just have you removed from the face of the earth like that, you know. That's what they're afraid of. But you see, I'm not afraid because this is just a physical, organic body. This is a stepping stone. My energy will never die because you can't kill energy. You can only transmute it. So I have things that I need to say, that I need to share with the world, to try and open people's eyes and wake people up to the reality of what's going on around them and look at the things that we don't want to look at. Because if we look at them and we admit that they're there, then we have to take responsibility for them. And if we take responsibility for things, then often it means that we have to change our actions and our lifestyles. And that's just too much for a lot of people, isn't it? God forbid you're going to have to stop eating meat. God forbid, you're not going to buy loads of shit that you don't need. If you've got 5 shirts that are all the same, one for $1.99, one for $5.99, one for 60 quid because it's got a logo on it, most of you'll go for the one with the logo on because it's all about how you're perceived in other people's eyes. But if you live your life based on how you're perceived in other people's eyes, not only is it a very shallow, selfish way to live your life, it's just completely ego driven. And, it's part of the problem with the world, really. We're so blinded as to what's going on around us because we're so focused on self and what we can gather around us because we're stuck in survival. We've lost our compassion. We've been desensitized, because we've been brought into this broken society and the mask of the broken society has been put on us unwittingly. Obviously, it's just the way it progresses, isn't it? So therefore, we get taught how to behave and act and become part of society. Well, why do we want to become part of something that's already broken and perpetuate the problem? So I'm going to be bringing lots of truths, and I'm open for discussion because it's opinion, and just because it's my opinion and I've seen evidence pointing this way and I open my eyes and look around me and have perception, it doesn't always make it right. It doesn't mean that I have all of the answers either, but I think a very, very good starting point would be for us to start really taking responsibility, being honest about things, and finding our compassion. Because if we have compassion, then it means we don't want anybody else on this planet to suffer unnecessarily like they do. We also don't want animals to be raped and bred into these huge concentration camps that are all over the world and beaten and abused, whilst they're still alive, because there's loads of evidence of that as well. And then, we hang them upside down and slit their throats. What would happen if we did that to people? Yeah, people would be outraged. It's disgusting. Yet we do that to other living beings because we think that we're superior, because we can understand how we communicate. But every animal communicates. They all eat, they all shit, they all sleep, they all reproduce, they all feel, they see, they hear, they smell. In fact, lots of animals have senses heightened greater than ours because our senses are getting dumbed down constantly because of our surroundings and because of all the shit that we watch on TV, and it's a crazy mindless vortex of insanity. That's what it is, really. And we're so desensitized to it. We think that we are superior, yet we act inferiorly because there's not another animal on this planet that acts like the cancer of the planet like we do. Complete destruction, disregard for anything, just self gratification. That's what most of it comes down to. How much stuff can we gather? How big can I make myself look in front of everybody? Because I've got a flash car, I've got a flash house, all of that, and it's just the prices of everything get higher. It's not sustainable, and most of the things that we're doing on the planet are not sustainable. And we need to look and say, right, okay, what really serves us and what doesn't serve us, right? Time to get rid of whatever doesn't serve us. It's not like we don't have the information, and it's not like we don't have the resources to change things either. Plastics. It's insanity that we understand how bad plastics are for the planet and that we can't get rid of them, and yet we're still making more and more. Every single day there's tons and tons and tons of more plastic just being piled on top of all the plastic we've already got that we can't get rid of, we can't destroy, and what's happening to these? So a lot of waste, I don't know about, I know a lot of people are not aware of this. So, yeah, a lot of waste gets fed to the animals that you eat, and there's evidence of this, there's footage appearing. I mean, it disappears, it appears, but there are people who can attest to this, who work in these places where they chuck all of the shit that they need to get rid of. They keep the plastic packaging on it, the cardboard boxes, it all gets dumped, moldy. I mean, you know, we've always been led to believe that mold isn't that much of a problem, is it? But it's highly toxic. It is highly toxic. If you look into the truth about mold and mold spores, highly toxic. This is why when people get mold in their houses and have a bad problem with mold, they end up with, breathing problems, and you know, and and that gets ground down, put into the pig food. That's truth. It gets ground down into a mulch and then heated up to a certain temperature and gets fed to the pigs. And roadkill, dead dogs and cats all get ground up to go into dog and cat food, so we're making them into cannibals, our little furry friends. We like our pets. In fact, we even love them. But we have got none of that compassion for the animals that we choose to eat or slaughter, and unnecessarily. Meat doesn't do anything for us. So we need to wake up and be honest, have honest discussions, get proper information out there, not from your official websites where they just lie to you constantly because they're corrupt, they have their own agenda. But let's be honest, let's listen to all of these people who are being silenced, and let's get everything on the table. There's loads of stuff going about the lies that surround us and deceit, and there's loads of evidence that points to other things. So what about Tesla's fair that he did? When people were all having candles and all that kind of stuff. Well, he had electric trains and lights lit up everything, and this is all evidenced. It's all there. It's all there for people. It was buried. People tried not to let us know because obviously, why would they want us to have something free when they can charge us? We're the only animal that pay to be on this planet. It's just mental. We need to come back to basics. We need to strip things down, and we need to take control back from authority, because they're there to serve us, not the other way around. And we've been made into the slaves and the servants. And that's not the way it's meant to be. We're the caretakers of this planet. We're supposed to be looking after this planet. This is why we're here. Looking after the animals that we're making extinct. How many species have we extinct already? I mean, what gives us the right just because we can? And how many? I think there's 100 million species on the brink of extinction now. And it's just crazy, because if we poison our seas and we destroy our land, and our air is already unbreathable, not unbreathable because we can still breathe it, but it's above the level of toxicity that's fit for human breathing. So it's, and that's making people ill. And, these places where they say, oh, we're going to charge you money to come into central London, the ULEZ and all of that, to keep London's air clean. I mean, what fucking retards actually believe that? You know, it's not London's air, it's the world's air. So, you know, stopping cars from going into London but letting them go everywhere else doesn't solve the problem. You know, it's just their way of not doing anything but charging you money and making it seem like they're actually doing something, and they're not. You know, so all they're doing is fleecing us for more money on top of the taxes we already get taxed, on top of the huge hours that we have to work, you know, to bring that home. Everything we buy is that we're paying tax on. You know, it's just absolutely insanity. You know, the whole society is just upside down and on its head. And if we don't come together and stand together, you know, and fight this, we haven't got a hope in hell. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of world do you want to inhabit, and what kind of world do you want your children to inhabit? Because those who have an amazing view of the world are the lucky few. You know, the ones who have enough money to be able to go and do what they want, and you know, they don't need to worry about, you know, paying the rent or feeding hungry mouths or clothes because they've got so much money they can buy what they want. Well, that's the minority. So you're in the minority because most people are working hard and struggling, and they're constantly worried about money and having to constantly work longer hours than they'd really like. You know, and a lot of industries that we have are useless. They're there for no good reason, really. You know, so we need to stop and take a really good look at what's going on around us and make decisions about what we actually want. And I know what I want. So, what I want a nice world where it's comfortable for everybody, that's even, you know, that nobody has to suffer and struggle through. I want honesty. I want the truth put out there. I want all global decisions to be open so that we all know about it, because this is our planet. It's not their planet or your planet or any singular person or conglomerate or corporation. It doesn't belong to anybody like that. It's our planet as a collective. We only have one. It's like one big spaceship. And it doesn't matter what country you come from, what part of the planet you live on. At the end of the day, we've all got the same atmosphere, the same air, the same food source, the same supply of everything. Yeah, we drink the same water. You know, everything we share. It's all ours. Yeah, and yet we're splitting everything up. And who has the right to control any of this planet? It doesn't belong to anybody. You know, it belongs to all of us. Everything equally. We all have equal right and equal share. So, you know, instead of cutting things up and apportioning them to people, you know, it should be an open world where we have communities and we barter with each other, or we just work in unison. You know, this whole monetary system is just absolute insanity, and the figures have gone insane, out of control. You know, the money doesn't exist on this planet for the figures that are out there. It doesn't. You know, no bank can back up the money that they say they can. It's just not possible, and we all know this. And then the banks and the Federal Reserve are all owned by the same people as all of the big corporations are. If you look at all of the top shareholders, the heads of all of the industry, yeah, all industry, the top shareholders are the same companies. You know, BlackRock, AXA, all these places. You know, it's like, come on, do some research, look into it, open your eyes, wake up, people. Because if we don't wake up as a collective, and I know lots of people are waking up, and more people are waking up, we're getting more information out there, and you know, we're building momentum, but it needs to happen quicker, and we need to stop conforming to what we're told to do by people who lie to us constantly and who mislead us and have no interest in our health or well-being whatsoever. They're only interested in how much they can make out of it, how much power they can get, what position they can get, the standing in life. That's all ego driven. So, you know, we need to wake up and we need to take control, and the only way we can do that, put aside our differences. So we might have different opinions. Well, we do. It doesn't make us mortal enemies. Why? Because you've got an opinion about something and somebody else has got an opinion about something else. What? You've got to be enemies over that? Different opinions are great because it opens the door for great discussion of discovery. If we all have the same opinion on things and we're all following blindly one thing, well, that's mind control, isn't it? It's being brainwashed. It's not thinking for yourself. You know, intelligence isn't based on repeating things that are taught to you or believing everything you're taught. It's thinking for yourself, checking things out and thinking outside the box, coming up with good truths and solutions that benefit not just ourselves, but everybody. And until we can do that, we can never class ourselves as a civilized society. And how do we want to end up? Look at the lockdowns and the totalitarian measures they're taking in Australia now. And look at China, and all of the technology that's got people imprisoned. They're all in prison there. They're afraid to stand up for themselves because there's such a stronghold being put on there. So if we start giving up our freedoms and, complying too much and allowing them to tell us what to do and, so and so, what happens when you are under the control of a corrupt government, which we know we are, every country is? Well, how do you fight against them when they've got cameras everywhere and you're chipped and all of the currency is now, digital and you need permissions to go everywhere? They'll just switch you off. And what, you're going to end up on the street begging and people will just look down at you. I can't give you any money because I've got no money to give you. Have you got credit? Oh, I can't get credit because they've switched me off. Wake up, people. Because I'm not bothered about me, but I am bothered about my son. And I'm bothered about his children and their children. And I'm sure you're all bothered about your children and their future generations. Well, let's take a real look at it and let's look at the information that's out there. Even in mainstream, there's loads of information out there that, points us to how screwed up the world is. And we really need to take responsibility. We need to act and we need to come together. So on the 5th of November, it's going to be a big march by Anonymous and anybody who supports them. And I say we all join it and show our solidarity because we have to come together on something. We have to put our differences apart because it's bigger than that and it affects us all. This is something that we can really stand together on is, the safety of our planet and us and our freedoms and what we want and truth. Because there's many truths out there that need to be revealed, so I'm just trying to appeal to, I know that all of you out there, well, not all of you, but the majority of you are really good, loving, caring, compassionate people who are being misled, being lied to, being brainwashed, but you can't walk around in a daze anymore, you have to wake up out of your trance. You need to stop with this immediate instant gratification, the selfishness, and I know a lot of people do good work for charities and things like that, but what is a charity? It's a business. Who benefits from that? The business does. The people who need the help don't. Look how many charities have been going on, how much money they've got, and what have they actually done in this world? People like Greenpeace and stuff like that, full of shit. The people who work for them on the bottom line, yeah, they're all good, but it's the people at the very top who stop them and who misdirect them. And, it's like you open a barn door, 500 cattle escape. Instead of closing the barn door and putting them back in, you leave the barn door open and you try and put one in at a time. And every time you put one in, you go to get another one. And it's like, it's just a load of shit. You can't campaign against the government about the broken system, which they are part of, for them to fix the broken system. It's like telling the devil that, you want him to make people good. Well, it doesn't work like that, does it? So the only way we can implement real-time good change is through ourselves. We have to change. We have to be the instrument of change, and it's about our decisions. Diet choices, lifestyle choices. Do we want to continue to be consumers and feed into the machine, or do we want to take control of our lives back? you know. So I'm going to leave this there for now, let you think about that, but there's going to be a lot more from me. So, if I strike a chord with you, please follow me, like it, and share so that we can get this message out there. And I'm going to be talking about a lot more stuff, more in depth. I'm not going to chuck loads of information in front of you. I will give you some information sources. My son's setting up a Discord for me, and I need to set up a website and stuff. I'm not very, technical minded with computers. So if there's anybody out there who likes what I say and would like to join in and jump on this cause, DM me, hit me up, and I could do with a bit of assistance to. I've got loads of stuff written down and voice recordings that I could do with help getting out there. And I've got loads of information, and there's loads of information out there that everybody can look at. It's all over the place, but it's not on your mainstream platforms like Facebook, which obviously Zuckerberg controls, and he's part of the system, isn't he? Sold out. But obviously, you only get to be up there and powerful like that if you sell out. There's no space for you otherwise, and that's it. So there is a war going on, and it's a war for our freedom and survival. And it's up to us, and it's not a war against the unseen enemy, it's a war within ourselves. We have to be the change, and that's it. Anyway, peace and love.